Hi everyone. I would like to keep this one brief, but I think this will be impossible. So I'm just going to go one at a time with things. Okay. So I have found out that I have had a clip that was taken, which features myself and a past beloved, and that it is either in circulation or displayed publicly someplace. And for some of you who have been following the poetry of my posts, some of you know what I'm referencing because I've referenced it before. But either way, I'm addressing it now because it needs to be addressed. And my former beloved, who is in it, she is aware. And now comes the second part, why it got released. So, for those of you who have been following some of my earlier posts and my poetry, that was in regards to a cabal. That was intentionally trying to sabotage the message that I'm bringing. And that message is of conquest. So just to kind of remind us what my message is all about, I'm bringing up a distinction between a God of conquest and disembodiment, and a God of communion and embodiment. When I say a God of conquest, that's when, people use the message of God not necessarily to show the love of God, but to take things, to attain things, to conquer things. So it's a disembodied expression of God. And then there's communion, which is an embodied expression of God. So it's authentically loving. It's the real deal. The reason why I bring this up is because I think one of the most important narratives of our time is spiritual rape, or rape in general. And it's because we don't have a distinction between conquest and communion. So many times we use the banner of a God of conquest and disembodiment. Not all those words. But what comes with that is a sense of entitlement. Some people feel entitled to someone's body. Some people feel entitled to someone else's life. Some people feel entitled to someone else's land. Because God willed it. Manifest destiny. And this is a really slippery slope. Because it wasn't until the 1990s, in fact, where marital rape became its own thing. Can you imagine that? Like, the Christian marriage has been around for, my goodness, like 1700 years by that time. And only then are they coming up with marital rape. Because even in the container of a marriage, blessed by God, there may not be authentic communion. It's a disembodied conquest sexuality under the guise of God. So that has left a real mark, not just on the people involved, but even on society. Even the way colonialists have come to America and met Native Americans. And there were several attempts to delegate and to be kin to the whole process. But in the end, the Native Americans just lost their land. Promises are made, promises are broken. And it was this disembodied sense of entitlement that made it okay. This is what I mean by conquest. It's a very important distinction. So once in the 1990s, once marital rape became its own thing, there were still very, very little persecutions. So I think this is a very important thing to bring up, because if this type of thing is happening, it should be known that it is not okay, that there is a difference. And this is why I bring this important message. And an important distinction to articulate this message is one of an erotic Christ. Now, many of us believe in we pretty much all believe in the narrative of Jesus being a virgin and being born of a virgin. This is a very virgin message of God. So what happens when we have a very virgin message of God? Well, we don't have a good example of sex. And so we have conquest sex that's done underneath the banner of God, but it's rape. It's entitlement. It's taking. It's awful. It's awful. And so I make these distinctions so that we may know the difference between the two. Communion, this results to life. It results to creation. It results to healing. It results to expression. So many things. Conquest, not so much. It's the opposite. In fact, conquest cannot create those things. That's why conquest takes. It takes what it cannot create. This is why we have conquest. Same thing with rape or entitled sex. It takes what it cannot cultivate. Right? I remember when I got married, I wasn't good at sex. I didn't know how to cultivate it. I felt obligated to it. I felt entitled. So I know what it feels like. So that's the message. That's the message that I was hitting some sabotage. And Cabal was working against the message. My immediate thought is like, why would this happen? Who am I? Like, why pick on me? Well, I didn't know the story then. I know the story now. And just to cut to the chase, it's because I had a beloved who this person loved too. And there was jealousy. And it just expressed in that way. It started off with labeling me as dangerous. And apparently there were many things that this cabal did. But the things that they were doing were so absurd. First, there was an illegal investigation done on me because I was dangerous. But nothing was found on me. So there was an attempt to frame me several times. Neither of them worked. Some of you guys have seen my post about Amara, so there's that as well. So these attempts failed. But what surprised me is that it kept on going. It just kept on going. I thought, hey, wait a minute. I thought I was safe. Like, well, if you have to create a story to legitimize this feeling that I'm not safe, like maybe you guys are the ones that aren't safe. So this is what all my poems were about. I was, my privacy was compromised, so I knew that was one way I could talk to them directly. And it was really fun. It was really fun. Because I wasn't just talking to them directly. I was talking right to the leadership and their whole team. Their whole team. They had to read every word of my Facebook messages in order to recontextualize it as something dangerous. And so I started to have fun with that. But one of the things that was done was this clip was found by the detective. And it was held, and it was going to be released, perhaps in conjunction with one of these posts. And so those Facebook posts were a way for me to address it. And also, I had to contact my past beloved. I had to tell her what happened. Of course, this was a very difficult thing to confront. So I was protective of that, of her as well. And it just really surprised me how all these things were done with no regard to the actual effects that it had. It was a very conquest move, is what I'm saying. A very conquest move. A very disembodied conquest move. To try to stop a dangerous person who they couldn't find anything dangerous about. And then I realized, like, wait, why is this group doing this in secret? If I'm so dangerous, why is this being done in secret? I bring this up to you because of conquest. I want to make the distinction between conquest and communion, because sometimes conquest operates in the realms of secrecy, in the realms of deceit, to try to control and manipulate and move around like this. No, they don't. But I like it. All that to say, this clip was being saved to try to control what I'm doing, to try to get in front of the message. And I just found it so very cowardly. Like, you're gonna try to, like, what? First of all, why do you have to find your own message? why do you have to take mine and then, like, just make your own message? Like, what was that about? So there's that, and also doing this whole thing in secrecy. I started to learn a little bit more why. Because this cabal was being led by someone who was using spells and brainwashing. He was a warlock witch combination connected to a coven. Also part of the Masons. Deep state. Separate, though, from those motivations, there was a real simple one that I could relate to. He was in love with a past beloved of mine. He was also in love with me. This man is bisexual, and he's kept it a secret. But the reason why I have to bring this up here now is because it really does explain a behavior that's a very conquest pattern. You see, with conquest and communion, what I'm learning to do here with that is, I've done some films called Holy Erotica. I'm exploring eroticism. And with eroticism, I had to learn to behold the feminine, to not just take her, but to worship her and to just behold and to just be there and, right? And I generally believe when you do this, when you learn to behold and you learn to commune through that, like there's an ascension that happens here. You become Christ-like, you become embodied, you become like consciousness, you start getting magical powers. All of a sudden you can like be telepathic, anyway, it starts to branch out from there. But you get the idea. Good things happen. Otherwise, if you don't know how to behold, you just take, or you manipulate, or you deceive, or you do things in secrecy, like taking people's images illegally, Or maybe you're with a beloved and you're just, sneaking pictures here and there. Or maybe you're just, so anxious to record your sex. It's like there's so many forms of ownership that men tend to do in a disembodied way. We're just kind of programmed to do it because of all the pornography that's being watched, and phones are so accessible. It's like, I gotta save this moment somehow. I gotta take pictures. I gotta and then we have this little hard drive of treasures, of like relics, and then we look at this thing like, yeah, look at all what conquested, yeah. At least that's what it feels like when I've had my moments. And for some, that's as close as they can get. To get a clip of someone, or to steal a clip of someone, and just kind of like hold it and feel like it's mine. It's like this person becomes yours. Yeah, I have you. And you do this in secret. You take images of your partners, or maybe they're not your partners. You just desire them. Maybe you're in love with them. And you just get it in these disembodied ways. Why do we do that? It's a pattern. Sometimes when we are in a destructive loop and we're so hell-bent on destroying someone, sometimes the motivation underneath is that you just love them. Well, why do we do that? I think it's because we don't spend too much time learning how to commune. We just learn how to conquest. You love a person, if you don't know how to be with them, honestly, then I'm gonna destroy you. Ever seen that pattern before? I have. It's a few posts back. I talk about this guy from which the clip was initially breached. I confronted him and he didn't answer my questions. He just said, I'm gonna kill you, and it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. But I bring this up because conquest and communion are very, very important distinctions to make. And so when we follow the pattern of secrecy, we have this cabal here. You have the Masons, you have deep state. All these things operate in secrecy. Why? Why? To manipulate, to control? Why? What's the point? I think the point is we are afraid to death to commune. We don't even know how. We don't even know how to have communion with ourselves. That's why some of us have secrets like bisexuality. And I empathize with this wound. I myself I had a sexual experience way earlier than I needed to have. It was someone of the same sex. And I remember that disrupting my relationship to men deep into my adulthood. But it wasn't until I was in Europe and I was in a safe space with friends who I trusted. That's where I experimented with men. Apparently, I was too uncomfortable to do it in America. I wonder why. But after that happened, well, let me tell you, I felt closer to men afterwards. Not closer to men as like, it's eroticized to men, as brothers. I felt closer as a brother. I felt more masculine afterwards. Sometimes we need to bridge that gap to heal, to find our own masculinity. For those of us who read the Bible, even King David said that he loved Jonathan more than a woman. These are wonderful things to consider, because if we only put these things like bisexuality or homosexuality, if all we do is shame them, this is why we need an erotic Christ, because we don't know how to commune, we don't know how to hold them. What instead happens is we have to conquest them, we have to beat them. Maybe we have to do that because we envy them. Maybe because we see something in them that we love. So let's consider these things. When we try to sabotage someone or work against someone, maybe it's because we love them. And maybe the difficult part of loving them is our inability to find communion and love with ourselves. Because it's tough. It's a step to go through. It is a legitimate step to go through. And so for those who stole this clip from me, I hope we're having this time together right now. Me and you. I just expressed the same wound. And now we're on this side of it in a very sober way. And you can welcome that part into your life too. But now we have this clip to attend to. This clip was released in a Hail Mary move because the cabal has been squashed. Arrests have been made. This is why I can speak openly about it now. But the clip was still released. I was hoping that that wouldn't happen. So we're going to be addressing that clip really quick. I'm just going to be mentioning a few things here. I know what that clip means to me. I know what it means to my past beloved. It's sacred. It was a shared moment of embodied communion. It's holy. So, I believe to make things right is that I'm going to put up perhaps like a Venmo thing here. Because something I've always intended to do was to create a temple space where eroticism can be featured in a holy way, to show the distinction between conquest and communion, to do what I can to express an erotic Christ, to show something holy. And if this conquested clip becomes the means for me to have this subject put forth, then so be it. So in an ideal world, this would be something that would feature clips that people are in consent with. So as a step to that, in order to make this right, will be an invitation for people to make that offering of holding it as sacred. And you may not even need to see the clip. Nor am I going to describe it to you. If it crosses your path, I'm just going to trust that you're going to recognize it by frequency. And the intention of the container, when I actually have it for other things, is to give people a chance to step into a space where they can behold things as sacred, not out of conquest, in communion. Because I think just entering a space like that will be a whole new distinction that will grow us in an important way that we've been missing for far too long. It's a holy space of value. I believe in it. So consider that as well when I put up my little, a Venmo thing here or something. And knowing that conquest tends to work in secret, an invitation for you guys is that this group, this cabal, which is now arrested, which really didn't have to do this Hail Mary move, but they did. I don't know why. Sometimes people just need to destroy something they don't know how to commune with. All that to say, I'd like to reverse the frequency. It's not my place to disclose who this cabal is. But these arrests have been made today, and this is why I'm posting this now. So for anyone who feels like they've come across the clip, consider how you heard about it. Follow that trail backwards. Maybe it leads to a site. Maybe it's one of these things that, DIY sleuths can figure out. Like, oh, I know how to find out who authored this, who paid for this. With all these efforts to stay secret, it just seems a bit cowardly to do a Hail Mary move like this. But that's not my thing to pursue. But I think this curiosity with this cabal that has stayed hidden, I think this will switch the frequency so that folks won't be so enticed to just show it. That they know that when they show it, there's also a polarity that wants to know where it's coming from. Because this clip does not belong to you. It would be conquest to receive it, as it would be conquest to send it, as it would be conquest to hold it. But there is a space I'm making where it will be communion. And you're invited to experience something new there. But not this old shit. All right. Hey, 27 minutes, not so bad. I thought I could do it in 5.